Okay, get going here in a second. I'm launching a site in another window, so I'm a little distracted at the moment, but I will launch us here or get us going soon. Good morning, folks. Okay. All right. Let me bring up my outline, bring up the chat. A little bit of a massage there for everybody. And we will get started. So, this is the Gravity Forms training session. Just a general rundown of how to use Gravity Forms and just some of the things that you can do with it. Um, this will be, I imagine we won't take up the full 2 hours, but based on any questions that might come in or any other sort of random things that pop into my head as I'm building these out. I've been tinkering with this quite a bit over the last week with a lot of folks who are building out forms that they're needing to use due to our current work situation. Obviously, you can see with my camera, I'm recording this from home. So it's been interesting. But we'll get started here. I will cut the cam so that we can focus in on the pages itself. So Gravity Forms. Gravity Forms is a plugin that the WiscWeb service uses for creating web-based forms. The most prominent one that we have on our site is our request a new site um, form. It asks a number of fields that you would have a user fill out. Um, Scrolling on down, you'd have the submit button down there, and um, you would receive it via email. You'll receive it internally to the forums area, which I'll show you about in a little bit. Um, but that's essentially what Gravity Forms is all about. So one thing to note is, or two things to note, I guess I should say, is to request a form to be turned on, you must go to our site and go to the help and customer support form. And in there is a plugin activation request. And then down below, there is the plugin that you want to um, uh, request to have turned on. Then you click submit. We would get that, and we would then turn the Gravity Forms plugin on for you. So when you're in your dashboard area, the forms appears over here on the left underneath the media menu section. But the second thing to be aware of is the fact that when you are building out, or I'm sorry, when you are using Gravity Forms, your user role must be administrator. So you must be an administrator of your site to actually be able to see the various plugins that you might want to use over here on the left. So that's just something to be aware of. We often get requests about turning on the plugin, but it's usually from people who are editors of their site and not administrators of their sites. So just be aware of the fact that a user role must be administrator for you to see the forms over here. Okay, so just a couple more things. We do have a knowledge base document out here at 70108. And that is just a quick introduction to the Gravity Forms plugin, but we don't try to maintain all of the updated documentation here. Instead, we link you out to the vendor website, to the Gravity Forms website itself, and there they have pretty concise user guides on walking you through um, how to do this process. And the reason why we link it out to the the user guides from there is it's easier for them to maintain it and to make sure that it's up to date, so that we don't have to try and keep up with things that are little things that are changing within it. We just let the vendor do that, and they're good for that. Okay, so using Gravity Forms. Obviously, to access your forms, you would click on your menu over here on the left. You would see all of your forms that would be created in this little section right here. Obviously, I don't have one yet. So to create a new form, I would simply click Add New. It will prompt you for a form title and a form description. Form title obviously is necessary. So let's see, sample user input form, and just testing things out. And then just click Create Form. It will create the form and automatically take you into that particular form. And then you'll see here on the left, it actually walks you through the process of creating your form. It's pretty user friendly. It's similar to most things within WordPress. It's meant to be easy to use for everyone. So just be aware of the fact that it does have a little bit of like walkthrough process to it. But again, always refer back to the user guides if you have any questions on some of these things. So how do you start to build out your form? Well, over here on the right side, you have a number of fields to choose from. You have standard fields, which are just your basics, things like text fields, drop-down selectors, checkboxes, radio buttons. Below that, you have advanced fields, and advanced fields come with predetermined and pre-formatted fields, and we'll use a few of these as well coming up. But they come with basically an already preconceived notion of what it is that you're going to be asking for. So obviously you can see in there name, date, etc. You can kind of add these things in as you need for your purposes. And then below that you have post fields, and I'll get into this just a little bit because this is something that I'm actually starting to tinker with a little bit more. But basically what you can do is you can use a form to allow other users to essentially create posts for you. So you know it, essentially, one of the requests that's out there is they want other people to be able to create news articles for things that are happening right now with the whole COVID-19 campus response to that. And they want people to be able to submit information to a site that is visited by a lot of different people. And so, they're going to use these types of things to populate that stuff. So let's go up, and we'll just start with um, the basics. So, if you want to add something, you just click on it over here. You'll see that it does add it over here on the left. Pretty mundane. So to edit that field that you've added, you would click the drop down right there. And now what you can do is you can edit some of the information that you see in here. So first things first here. We'll try to keep it upbeat. So you can put in a maximum characters value. This is if you want to limit what people are allowed to put in, or limit how many characters they're allowed to put in. You don't want somebody to go on and on and on and on and on. So this is up to you there. You can also make these fields required if you so desire. This is something that we'll get into more as well as we start to build out this form. But basically, there are some fields that you're going to ask for that need to be populated. the required field, the required option for these fields makes it so that the form cannot be submitted if these fields have been ignored. So that's underneath the general. The appearance, you could put in a placeholder value if you so desire. The field label goes above the form itself. So this is the field label value right here. The description placement by default goes below the actual input field. You can change that. I'm very much a person who likes the description fields, the description placements to be above the actual field itself. Field size, things like that. We don't get into the validation message, and we don't use custom CSS class either. That stuff is all set for the theme, so we don't worry about that stuff. And then you can change the field size if you so desire. And then underneath advanced, just again, you can enter a default value. This is if you wanted something to already be in there. But again, that's not something that's necessary. We'll get into conditional logic later on. And then visibility. Visible is what you usually want because you want users to be able to see the actual form or the actual field itself. But hidden, it could be hidden from your audience. And then administrative, I haven't really tinkered with this one, so I'm not sure how this one works, but it's something that could be looked at for an option there as well. So that's how you add the single line text field. The paragraph text would be similar. We could do a drop down. So activities. There you go. Add some choices there. Again, above inputs. I'll show you where you can change these defaults later on. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Leave that as this. Let's see. Radio buttons. Don't need a description really there. And then to remove, to add, obviously you'd hit the plus sign. You saw me do that with the drop downs up there. But to remove, you just hit the minus sign, and that's there. There could be an enable other choice as well. And the other would be, you've seen this in forums before, but it would add an other radio button there, and then like an input field right next to it. Okay. So we've got ourselves just a few fields here to populate. So now to save your form, you just would click the update button. So you just click update. You saw me do it just now. You get the little message that says the form was updated successfully. Up here at the top, there is a preview button or a preview tab. So if you click that, your form would open up in a brand new tab. It's not going to look like what you expect because of the fact that this is an internal preview. It is not what you will see when it lands on the page because it hasn't yet received the styles that our UW theme applies to it. So this is just a way for you to check, what what options you are um, messing around with. So there's that other field, yes, no, things of that nature. We'll talk about what happens when you click submit a little bit here. Okay, so those were some simple things. So now what we can do is we can start to add maybe a little bit more of the advanced functionality as well. So I'll go in and I'll add name. And you'll see when I add name, it puts it down here at the bottom. But I want to reorder this, so I'm going to put that in, make that required. You could put in some placeholders if you want, and some default values. But I'm not worried about those because, like I said, it comes in predefined, so it already tells me it wants first and last name. And let's see, date. And I can bring that up here. And actually, what I can do is, with the date, I will put in, I will drop this down right here, and this is a merge field, so I want the date to be today's date, so it's going to automatically pull it in, and it's day, month, year, which is what we use here. And I'm just going to keep this hidden because honestly, I don't need the person to fill this out. I'm just capturing this just from a standpoint of I want a visible in the form way of seeing when a person submits this actual form. So that's what this will do. So I can just collapse that. It's in. It automatically will place that value in there. And it's hidden. Sorry. So hiding it means that the user of the form won't see it, but I'm automatically applying this value to it right here. All right, so date, name, and let's go email. So I'll bring that up, and let's do campus email address and make it required. Appearance. So the placeholder is what they see before they click into the field. So, you know, see that. Please enter your campus email address so we can get in touch with you. Above. All right, so there you can see, there's what that placeholder is like. All right, and then I'll click update. And that's what it looks like right now. So I'll click preview. You'll see, first, last. Once you click into here and you start entering something, it goes away. There's that field. Here's that drop down right here. And here's that right there. So again, the process is pretty straightforward for that. So I guess I should say, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat over there, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. But I'm just going to kind of keep motoring on through this until anybody else has some questions. So once I have this form created, and once I know that I want to place it, one of the things that I can do is I can tinker around with some of the settings. So if I click on form settings, this is where we can go to change some of the values that either we set, which is what this form basics was, or some of the values that are by default. So here's, for example, the label placement and the description placement. Well, I'm kind of tired of having to do this every time, so I'm going to change my description placement above the inputs. I can change the way that the button works. I can also change the name of the button. So instead of submit, you might have it be, I don't really know what else you would have it be. Submit's like the default. Go. You can change it to go. There we go. There is an option for you to click to save and continue to allow for your audience to save and continue. And basically, what this does is it allows a person who's filling out this form to click a button that says save and continue later. What it does is it internally saves that point for that particular user and will send them, based on an email address that they enter, a link to continue from the point where they are stopping. We have a few groups that use this, but I don't know how prominent it really is, and I don't know if they're still using it. It works, but I don't know what the success rate on people actually coming back and finishing have been. You can change some of the restrictions. We don't mess around with this. We don't mess around with any of the form options here. Eloqua is something that is getting a little more use on campus, but we aren't in a spot yet to really talk people through how to use it, mainly because it isn't widespread across campus yet, so we haven't had the opportunity to actually tinker around with it. So we have set those settings there. The next thing to touch on is the confirmations. And so the confirmations are, what does a person see, or what happens when a person clicks the submit button, clicks the go button for me now. Because they need to see, or you need to give them some sort of, it is what it says, some sort of confirmation that the submission actually did happen. So the default is it reloads the page that they're on with this text right here that just says, thanks for contacting us, we'll get in touch with you shortly. You can edit this if you so desire. You could change it to a page. You could create like a confirmation page within your site that you send them to. You can also redirect them. So once they actually commit it, it would automatically go to another URL, for example. So I'll tinker around with some of those in a second here, but that's essentially what the confirmations are about. So I'm going to show you what these things are, and then I'm actually going to go in and I'll tinker around with changing them a little bit to just give you some different options or some different things to think about. Okay. The big one, the important one, is the notifications area, because the notifications area is actually how do you notify someone or people that a submission has happened. Now there is a default admin notification. There's a number of things in here that you can touch on. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start one from the beginning, because I want you to see what some of these various values are. So I'm going to click add new for the notification, and I'll just call this Matt's notification. I'm going to have it send to an email. So I'm going to send it to myself. The from name field, now you can leave this blank and it would just say, new submission from blah blah blah. But since I have populated the form with some fields, I can use these merge tags right here. So think of Microsoft Word and think of mail merges. This has merge tags as well, And so since I'm actually asking people for their first name and their last name, I can actually set my form up. Notice the space I put in there. I can set this form up so that it will send from that person. But again, you have some flexibility here for what you want to do. Okay. The from email is an important one because by default, the from email goes into there and it says admin email. Except within WiscWeb, within our use of Gravity Forms and the ability to send through our Office 365 mail servers, you must have a different email address in the from email, and it has to be no reply at email.wiscweb.wisc.edu. So that is what the default value is. And again, that's what is in our documentation. You have to make sure that from email field is set to that no reply at email.wiscweb.wisc.edu. Sorry, dog barked in the background. So now you can do the reply to. I could set that up to be the campus email address. I could reply back to the person who sent the email. I could blind carbon it to somebody, something like that. So the subject is, I could say new form submission from, let's see, again, all these merge tags over here. But I'm going to say form title by, and then I can go first name and then last name. So now basically what I'm going to say is when I receive the email, the subject will be new form submission from, and then sample user input form by, and then whatever the first name and the last name is. So just some different things that I could put into there to maybe help me search for it in my email, or to filter it based on, or set up rules based on the form title right there. And then the message body, you have received a new form submission. Please see below for the entries. And then I'll hit enter, and then again, merge it over here, and then the top value, all submitted fields. I want all of the fields to appear in the form, in the submission that I get. Okay, so I have that set. I'll click Save Notification. So this is the one that I want to use. So I'm going to go back to Notifications. I'm going to turn off the admin notification because I didn't really edit this one. I left it as is, but I want this one to be the one that works. So we'll get into what happens when we submit it once we get through the process of how do you actually place the form. So to place the form, you'll see we have a name and it has an ID right here. So I'm going to go out to a page and I'm going to create a page, and I'll just call it Matt's sample form page. Because one of the things that you need to be aware of with plugins, and this is true for most of the content that you are creating over here on the left that isn't pages, the content is created in those particular areas, but they are displayed via pages. So once you have a page created, you can go in, and once you have forms turned on as well, you should see an Add Form button right there. So I will click Add Form, choose the form that I want from here. I can display information if I want to. Click Insert Form. You'll see that it comes in what's called shortcode. This is WordPress shortcode right here. And that's all I need. So if I scroll up, publish the page, and then here's my sample page right there. So I'm going to bounce out, and there's the form. And that's what it looks like. And so let's take a look at what happens with this. So there we go. There's that save and continue later, which I'm not going to worry about right now. I have these options here. I'll click go. Remember, I changed that from submit to go. Here's that confirmation screen. Give me a second to bring up the. Well, apparently I have to do O back in. Sorry. I'm bringing up my email in another window so that I can show you what the submission looks like. It's loading. All right, let's just do it this way since it's gonna give me issues. And here is what the entries look like right there in the email itself. So that's kind of what you get for what it looks like. So pretty straightforward. Any questions from the audience about how to set up a basic form? I will wait a second while I take a quick drink. Okay, let's start getting into maybe a little bit more of the advanced stuff that you can do. So I'm going to go back into my dashboard, click on the title up here, go back to the form, edit my form, and again, just to show you, it's here's where that date came in, but that's not the one I meant. We don't actually use that day, month, year. We use month, day, year. So you can go in and you can edit by just, again, clicking on the drop downs and then just changing the field to, oops, delete that out, to be what you want that different value to be in there. So let's talk a little bit about how do we use what's called conditional logic. Sorry, we got weird artifact stuff here, so I'm just going to update this to get rid of that. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about conditional logic. So conditional logic is you can set up a field or set of fields that only appear based on the choices that you are allowing users to make. So, for example, I have one that says, are you eager to get back to campus? So I'm going to set up a single line text at the bottom. Okay, have that set. Advanced. So you go to advanced and you click on enable conditional logic. And then you get the options below as essentially asking, what do you want this to trigger off of? So I want this to trigger off of, are you eager? Yes. It is yes. So this will only appear if this is yes. So now I have that one. I can go back and grab another one. And this where it becomes a bit so this one now I want it to trigger off of are you eager? No. So now I have these two. So like I said, it becomes a bit of a mental circus to make sure that you're handling and juggling all of the various logic fields that you're going to set up. We have a number of sites within WiscWeb that have a lot of advanced conditional logic that they put into their forms, and sometimes it gets a little confusing. Sometimes it breaks because you'll accidentally use conditional logic in places that you didn't mean to. And if you delete things out, it accidentally deletes out whole sections that you didn't mean to delete out. So you have to really manage. And I always encourage people to write out on I always have like a yellow pad, a large yellow pad that I just write out a form before I actually start building it out, just to make sure that I have, kind of a sketch to follow, and then also in case something actually did get um, deleted by accident, I have something to refer back to because um, there is no recreation here. There's no revision history to this. So once it's gone, you'd have to rebuild it. Okay, so conditional logic is set up. Why don't I go back to my pages? And here's this one. I guess I could have just clicked view. So I'm going to open this in a new window here. So, here we go. We'll go with hiking. Am I eager? Yes. That's great. No. So you can see here's where the conditional logic comes into play. And then other, and they go away. So there's where that conditional logic comes into play. So I have that all set. I can click go. And it will come through here. There it is. So you'll see it's from me. New form submission from sample user input form by me. Here's that information. And then here's the the fields that I entered there. So any questions on the way that conditional logic works? Okay. Quick pop over to my notes to make sure I'm capturing everything. Looks like I've got everything set. Okay. So now let's chat a little bit about the the other types of fields you can put in. So we talked a little bit about the advanced fields. You know, you can have people upload files. Those files go into your media library. One thing to be aware of is your media library has a limit on the size of files that can go into it. We only allow 24 megabytes files to go into the media library. Um, and also, one of the big things that people, um, not just from a submission standpoint, but also from our own standpoint on, um, when you as users of WiscWeb upload files to the media library, one thing you have to be aware of is that you can't use what are called illegal characters. And illegal characters are things like apostrophes, um, double quotes, gosh, what else? Commas, it might be the slashes, um, that type of stuff. Those are illegal characters in file names. And when you try to upload a file to your media library and you have one of those illegal characters in there, it will error out. It will give you an error message, although it won't tell you why it's giving you the error message. So always try to make sure that you're attending to those file names. Use hyphens instead of spaces, and don't use any of those legal characters. The apostrophe and the quotation mark one is the one that gets a lot of people. So just make sure that you're attending to those. So with the file upload, and then also from your own upload standpoint. Um, so the other one that I want to touch on just briefly is just this whole post fields idea, because I've been working on it with another user and trying to figure out how to use this. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new form. We'll just call it sample news submission form. Please enter your prospective news story for us to post on our site. And I will click create the form. So now what I can do is I can start to ask for some things. So I can ask for the name. What's your name? Again, I would make it required. I would, let's see, date. I always want the date that this was submitted on. Again, I would make it be hidden and pull in today's date. Maybe what website they're working on. Yeah. Yep. So, there we go. Input there. Okay. So let's see, name, website, email. Probably want that there. Appearance above. Again, I would change these settings as I needed to. So these are just the quick basic things that I'm asking for. Name, email, what their website is. And then I'm going to put in what's called a section break. And essentially what this section break does is it creates a placeholder break from the top section of the form to the bottom section of the form. And I would say post information. Okay, there's that. And so now I'd go down to these post fields and I would ask for the post title. and then I would ask for the post body. Now, one of the hey, come on. It's not letting me edit it. I could ask for an excerpt as well. And then you could, if you have let me just update this just to see if that's just what's causing the issues. Yeah, just needed to update it. So if you have categories already set up, you could um, put in some information about that, make it a drop down. You could have it be all categories, or you could set the categories all automatically. So I might say, you know what, this is going to go into apples. It's going to be hidden. They don't get a choice on that. So I'm just going to put that in for them automatically. Let's see here. Yeah. All right. So I'm good there. And then now what I can do is, you can, sorry. Um, start to put in some placeholder information, or start to put in some default values. And again, you could use these merge values here. But this is basically you asking the people to start to put in their actual post information. Another thing, there it is. The other thing to be aware of is when you are doing this, you probably want to leave this as draft, because if you were to say you wanted this to go into a published state, that means that as soon as they click the go button and it processes through, it will automatically post this to your site without any review on your end. So my recommendation would be to set this as draft, so that you can actually um, uh, set that. And then it's going to default to whomever is logged in at the moment um, as the author of it. We don't actually display the authors in our posts, so it's not too big of a deal. And hopefully you're capturing that information up here as to who's actually submitting this. So you can um, use that a little bit. Okay, so again, just real brief explanation for that. Let's go to the settings. Confirmations, I'm not too worried about right now. Notifications, I'm not too worried about. I am going to go in and just change this to be me instead of admin email. And then, as always, and then you've got, here's the form, and then there's the subjects there. Update the notification. So we've got all that squared away. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this page. It's the page that had my sample form on it. And I'm just going to get rid of that other form that I was creating and click Add Form. And I'm going to change it to the new submission form. So I'll click Input Form there. I will update the page. And then now it's updated, so I will go back out. And so now you'll see, here's that information that it was asking for. So now I'll say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something funny, but we'll just leave it at this. So there we go. There's my post title, my post body. I click submit, and it submits it. I do get an email Come on. There it is. So there's the information that comes through in my email. Again, they didn't see the post category, but I do see it when I get the submissions. But the other thing to be aware of is now that I have created this, if I go up to my posts, here is that post that was created based on. So this is, yeah, I already created one the last time I did this training. Didn't know I would use the same one. But anyways, there's that. So I could go in and review it. There's the post title. There's the body of the post. And then here is the category that I already set ahead of time for this. And then what I could do is I could publish it. And then wherever I'm placing my news articles, I would be able to view that, and other people would be able to view that as well. So, any questions on doing those? Okay. So, I'm going to head back over to forums. And one of the things that I did say earlier was the fact that you could do, I'll just click into here. I guess I could have done that. You can do conditional logic as well on your confirmations and on your notifications. So, for example, if I add a new confirmation and I'll just say, this is test confirmation. And then text. We're so happy you're ready to get back to campus. And down here, the conditional logic is if, oops, wrong form. Let's get out of there. Let's go back into the user input form. Confirmations, sorry about that. Add new. Happy to get back. We're so happy for you to return to campus. We're so eager to return to campus as soon as you can. And so down here, the conditional logic, I'm going to set that for are you eager is yes. So this text will appear if they choose this and they submit it. So I'll click that save confirmation. I will go to the notifications just to kind of show you this as well. So I'll click add new, and we'll do a couple of things here. I'll talk you through a couple of different ways that you can do notifications because I've built out a number of different notifications as well in regards to what do people want to have happen once you click the submit button. So we'll just call this conditional notification. So we'll have it send to, let's see, I'm trying to think of something interesting, but I don't want to send it to my, we'll just put that in, but I'll show you from name. The person who submitted it. You got mail. All submitted fields. Enable conditional logic. And I'm going to set this up just because I know how it's going to go. So if name first is Matt, it will also send this notification. So I will click this. So again, basically what I did was I set up this conditional notification to send from this one, this particular name with this particular subject, only if the first name of the person who fills it out is Matt. So obviously I'm going to fill it out as Matt. So we'll see how this works. But we'll do that in a second. The other thing to be aware of is, and another thing that I have done for groups in the past is setting up notifications that mail back to the person who fills it out. And so, you know, I might call this user um, notification. And the event is the form is submitted. And then the send to email, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a field, and it's going to pull from any email fields that you populate into there. So I'm going to have it send to the email address that the person is getting. And then the from email or the from name is, let's see, um, WiscWeb service. And then the reply to, maybe I want it to go back to our service email address, our support email address, I should say. Thank you for your submission at form title. And then down here are the entries you made. If you need to update any of them, please reply to this email and let us know what needs to be changed. All fields. There you go. So you see how I set that up with, the text I entered, the little horizontal bar, this guy right here, and then all fields right there. I don't need to worry about any of this stuff here, so I will save that notification. So a lot of things are going to happen when I when I click submit on this form in a second here. But that's how you can do that. So again, you get a confirmation screen when you choose yes, you want to get back to campus for conditional logic. We're going to get a few more notifications here. So this one's going to go through if I use the first name Matt. No, that's this one, the conditional notification. If I use the first name Matt, this one's the one I created automatically. So let's edit this page again. Let's get rid of this. Add my sample user input form back in. Update the page. View the page. Here we go. Am I eager? Yes. Tell us why. Because it's not home. Click go. So here's that conditional notification that happened. I chose yes, and now I get this text instead of the default text. So that's where that comes into play. And obviously I have some email stuff as well. So here are the three notifications that triggered, or the three notifications that triggered. Here's the default one. There's the stuff that guy got. Here's the one because I put in that conditional notification about the first name being Matt. So obviously it submitted that to me as well. And then here's the one that returned it to the um, the user who sent it. So that's that user notification. So those are the three things that happen based on that submission right there. So that's how you can use conditional logic in your notifications, in your confirmations. And then obviously we talked about the conditional logic with the form itself. So the last thing to touch on out of gravity forms proper and to show you is you actually can edit the entries themselves or see the entries themselves when you click on entries within the form. So if you click on entries, you'll get the list, you'll get the date. Again, I was keeping this just so I could see what day they were being submitted, and also I could sort based on that particular field. So again, something to think about when you're building this out. You would click on that particular entry. Here is all of that information. You could resend any of the notifications if you so desire. So you could trigger which notification that you want to send. So, you can see I want to send it to particular people if you wanted to. So, interesting. And then you could make some notes in here for other people. So don't worry about this stuff. This is just this is just letting you know what happened as you were clicking the go button. But I could add a note to, um, you know, updating this based on user feedback, and click add note. There's my note in there, and then I can come up here and I can actually edit this. So if I click edit, I can update these fields based on whatever the user may have let me know. So instead of Matt, let's go with full name. How am I spending time these days? Researching new things that people can do within WiscWeb and WordPress. Yes, leave all that in. So once I've made these changes, I can click update. And that's that. I have updated that particular entry. And I could resend notifications if I so desire. Also, there's a print option here as well. So that's about all I wanted to show you within Gravity Forms. There's a lot of things that can be done with a Gravity Form, but it's all pretty straightforward. I hope that um, this made some sense. If you have questions, go ahead and ask them. I will stick on the line for a few more minutes, but otherwise, we're going to go ahead and call it there. And as always, if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me, that's my email address right there, matt.goins@wisc.edu. You can also reach out to me through Teams, Microsoft Teams. You can just search for me based on my name or based on my email address, and I'm more than happy to chat with you there as well. So, um, that being said, everybody stay safe, and don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Thanks. Bye.